I'm going to read a part of a murder mystery, paranormal murder mystery, and then after I read the excerpt, I'll explain what I'm up to. Oh God, Hans. It was Rob, his face screwed up in pain, his eyes tearing. What is it, Rob? Hans placed a hand on Rob's broad back, guiding him into the room. It's Lilith. Rob dropped his huge body into the easy chair, and elbows on knees, head in hands, broke down into sobs. Oh God, he kept repeating. Oh no. I knew what she had done. He's dead. She's dead, Hans. Rob got out between erratic breaths and choked tears. How? He asked, gray-faced, his hand gently massaging Rob's shoulder. I don't know. She's just dead, resting on the hay scattered over the dirt floor, like she was sleeping in front of one of the stalls. Her favorite song was playing. Couldn't find any means of death. It's just like she lay down and went to sleep and left for good. He looked up at Hans, red-eyed and confused, then returned his forehead to his hands. Chapter 23, Release from Hell. The note, Rob sighed, lifting his face from his hands, cathartic release clear in his eyes. What note? Hans narrowed his eyes and sat on the edge of the bed, motioning for me to sit beside him. She left a note. Said nothing was going to keep her from George's side. That they had earned the right to be together and be safe, not to be sad for her. She was joining George. We took a moment of silence. Then, en groupe, our emotions flew 3 feet into the air and focus flashed toward the door as it slid open abruptly. And Ruth entered, with freely flaunted flair, no cape intended. Not to grieve, my dears, she breezed into the room, shattering the heavy mood into quantum bits. I've talked to Lilith and George. They're both okay, happily settled, permanently. She paused to tilt her head downward and study us in caricature of a spinster librarian eyeing errant children over the top edge of bifocals, then continued explaining where George and Lilith had permanently settled. On the other side. And by the way, she leveled her gaze and widened her eyes in innocence as she set off another emotional burst. Lilith didn't kill herself. George came back for her. Fairy tales. It's a long story, she shrugged, then added, nor was she murdered. She grinned wickedly, pausing again before dropping the hottest bombshell. But I was. What? Hans, Rob, and I demanded. Ruth settled beside me on the bed. She had obviously gained admirable control of her newly activated, glowing and levitating abilities. Well, in truth, I can't be killed, since my body's already dead. But when I had returned to recharge it, so my time of death wouldn't be established before I wanted it to, well, I couldn't seem to get back inside. So I looked more closely at my corpse, and noticed. Honest shock glared in her gaze. It appeared that someone had injected something into my heart, in an attempt to add me to the list of induced heart attack victims. I was to be number 6. Neatly avoided that little scene, didn't I? She smiled grimly. As her audience remained speechless, in shock, Ruth continued. It's a good thing I had phoned Richardson in the morning, and he had come and gone before my unfortunate demise. The man's an efficiency genius. He had had the papers drawn up and brought them over for me to sign before noon, for my will. It's all settled now. But there is the matter of my funeral, and phoning the police to report my murder. Standing abruptly, Ruth clasped her hands together and concluded, "We've got a lot to sort out. And I'm hungry." She looked at Hans. "What's cooking?" "May I ask how you got here, Ruth?" Hans puzzled. "On my broomstick," she cackled. I rolled my eyes. Hans groaned. Rob's face flickered from terror to confusion, then settled on blank surrender. "Oh, hi, Rob," Ruth greeted belatedly. "I didn't mean to startle you with my new presence." Standing, Rob rubbed the creases out of his Levi's, then lifted his hat, which he had taken off, and set on the lamp table. "Nice to see you, Miss Jordan." "You too, Robert. You're such a gentle, gallant man. You poor thing." She patted his arm, and his muscle jumped ever so slightly, as if he had received a mild shock. "I'll bet you're wondering about my abrupt appearance, aren't you, my dear?" "Yes, ma'am, about that and a few other odd details." Facing Ruth, Rob was vicing his hat's brim, smashing and wrinkling the hardened leather in his huge white-knuckled hands. "I'm sure Hans has already told you about the unfortunate series of murders, as well as Myrtle's profession and reason for being here." "Yes, he has." "Well, I doubt he told you about the witches' coven." "Witches?" Rob repeated, mouth gaping. "Yes. But let's table that topic for dinner. How about it, Hans? Sorry if I seem cavalier about this whole mess, putting mealtime as a top priority, but my perspective really has changed. Things aren't as serious as human mortals see them. Of course, life is naturally different when you're living through it, through the weight and pain of it, as opposed to having risen above it, so to speak." "Oh, well, sure," I agreed automatically, eyes glazing over. "Yes, I suppose your elevated condition could have changed your view of mundane events," Hans noted, then stood. "Okay, that's good. This is an excerpt that I've read from my Kindle reading device. I'll see if I get to turn the page here and show you the book cover. And the title page. Begin to get the clues here. Myrtle's Ultimate Mystery by Linda Shelnutt. That's me. John Cassell has posted some videos on YouTube about this mystery and brought up some interesting points that I wanted to bring out and begin to discuss. And reading this excerpt, I think maybe will be a good starting point. John's image was bodies are rotting in the barn, and they're going to a gourmet dinner. And not only a gourmet dinner, I'll admit, but this is way over the top. I'm having everybody in there in this dinner relishing and moaning over every bite and describing almost every flavor and every taste. Why did I do that? Oh, I had quite a few reasons. But I think that I'll pause here and hope that I'll be able to continue this discussion at another time and explain a little bit more, maybe read a few more excerpts. Thanks for listening.